The fallout from the failed conservatorship attempt should have embarrassed them. It should have made them step back and rethink everything. Instead, it pushed them into overdrive. When control slips from people who depend on it, they don't retreat. They get louder. The next move came from Marissa. Another video. This time she filmed herself crying on her bedroom floor, makeup streaked, voice trembling with rehearsed vulnerability. Mental illness doesn't always look like what you expect, she whispered dramatically. Sometimes the people you love push you away. We're just trying to help her before it's too late. Within minutes, the hashtag #PrayForAva started circulating. But the internet has a short memory and an even shorter tolerance for lies. Someone stitched her new emotional video with her earlier post. Family Day without the drama. The side-by-side comparison spread like wildfire. Where was this concern when she was in the hospital? The stitched caption read. Suddenly, sympathy for them flipped. Overnight, people dug into old posts, screenshots, brand partnerships. They found everything. Marissa's ads posted during the week I was hospitalized, Peyton's Etsy shop reviews, even my father's brokerage records. By Friday, their online image cracked wide open. Brand deals dropped Marissa. Peyton's shop got flooded with questions. Clients pulled away from my father. Even my mother's Facebook, usually filled with her cheerful quotes, was cornered with strangers asking what really happened. Grandpa Joe walked into the kitchen holding his coffee mug like it was a trophy awarded for patience. You didn't have to lift a finger, he said. Truth works faster than revenge. That night, after a week of silence, my mother sent a single text. Please, can we talk? I stared at it for a long time before flipping my phone face down on the table. Across the room, Grandpa Joe looked over his newspaper. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I said quietly. Just done. The next morning, a courier arrived with a heavy envelope. This time, it wasn't from their lawyer. It was from my father himself. The morning after Grandpa Joe laid everything out, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Control. It was small, shaky, and unfamiliar, but it was there. The first thing I did was call my bank directly from the hospital room. The clerk recognized my voice immediately. I'd been the reliable one for so long that even they assumed I'd never miss a payment. But that morning, reliability had a new meaning. By noon, things started changing. Marissa's automatic transfers? Canceled. Peyton's rent payments? Stopped. Mom's car insurance? Removed from my account. The quiet bleeding of money I never agreed to give ended. Each click felt like air filling my lungs for the first time. But freedom has a price. As soon as the transfers stopped, the messages started. First came my mother. We just heard what happened. Why didn't you tell us sooner? Then Peyton. It's just a misunderstanding. We didn't know. I ignored every message. Emotionally, I knew I wasn't ready to hear excuses disguised as concern. Grandpa Joe sat beside me reading the newspaper, occasionally glancing over like he already knew where my thoughts were going. You feeling guilty yet? He asked eventually. A little. It'll pass. Guilt is the tax good people pay before freedom. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He always had a way of turning broken pieces into lessons. The next day, I left the hospital. Grandpa Joe drove me back to my apartment, a place that suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too aware of everything I had tolerated for years. I unplugged my phone, but silence doesn't stay silent long. 2 hours later, another message from Dad broke through. This is serious. Call me. Everything is falling apart. I almost felt sorry. Almost. But that 2 days later, when I visited Grandpa Joe's house in Portland, I realized falling apart wasn't the half of it.
His dining table was covered with documents, statements, insurance letters, payment histories, financial footprints of a family who treated me like a living ATM. "Every mess leaves a paper trail," he said, adjusting his glasses. "Theirs is just more dramatic than most." As we went through the documents, the truth unraveled. My parents hadn't just leaned on my help, they'd structured their entire stability on my income. Without me, the cracks widened fast. By the end of the week, the calls doubled. My voicemail filled with my mother's soft, guilt-coated voice. "Sweetheart, we didn't know you were in the hospital. You should have told us." Then lower, almost whispered, "Your father is worried about the mortgage again." Worried, not sorry. Then Marissa's messages came dripping with panic, screenshots of her empty accounts, dramatics that would impress her followers. "If you don't fix this, I'll lose everything." I replied with one word: good. Her reaction was instant. 10 missed calls within minutes. Then Peyton tried. "I'm not like them. Please don't punish me for their mistakes." I almost laughed. She had said the same thing when I co-signed her apartment lease last year. Grandpa Joe watched me scroll, one eyebrow raised. "They're not calling because they care," he said. "They're calling because they're cornered."
When I opened my eyes in the hospital, I thought the worst part was almost dying. I was wrong, because 3 days later, still hooked to machines, I unlocked my phone and discovered 74 missed calls, a message from my dad saying, "We need you, now," and a family photo of them smiling at a picnic, posted while I was fighting for my life. But that wasn't the part that broke me. The part that froze my blood was realizing they weren't calling because I was in danger. They were calling because they were. And I had no idea yet just how far they were willing to go to pull me back under. I used to think burnout was just the price you paid for being dependable. At GreenTech, deadlines stacked like bricks, and I was always the one left holding the wall up. If someone stayed late, it was me. If a project needed saving, it somehow landed on my desk. My coworkers admired my discipline, but they never realized it wasn't passion pushing me forward, it was fear. Fear of what would happen if I ever stopped being the family safety net. My father, Robert, had been unemployed since the housing crash. He liked to pretend it was temporary, but 7 years of waiting for the right moment felt more like a permanent pause. My mother, Elena, kept insisting he would get back on track soon, but the truth was simpler. They relied on my paycheck more than I wanted to admit. Then came Marissa, our self-appointed influencer, always launching some new project. A wellness brand, a podcast, a failed candle line. Every time I became her secret funding source, labeled with transfers titled "Just This Month," and Peyton, the youngest, sweet but careless, borrowing silently and forgetting loudly. To the world, we seemed perfect. Holiday photos and matching sweaters, curated smiles, captions about togetherness. Online, Marissa called us the Millers, proof that love is everything. She wrote that right after I paid off Mom's late car insurance bill and covered a mortgage fee they forgot to mention. Apparently, love had a financial statement. The only one who ever saw the truth clearly was Grandpa Joe. He had spent 40 years as an accountant in a law firm, reading people like spreadsheets. He'd once told me, "You can't audit love, but you'll know when the numbers stop adding up." He warned me that my parents had come to see me less as family and more as a fallback plan. I didn't want to believe him. I had been raised to think loyalty fixed everything, so I kept fixing. The night before everything fell apart, I was still at the office at 10 p.m., staring at a blueprint that looked like a blur. For weeks, my chest had been tightening, my vision dimming at the edges. I blamed stress. But as I packed up to leave, my phone buzzed. Marissa again. "Can you cover my rent? Promise I'll pay next month."